All right, this is knit block of the month. This is block number 10. We're almost done, which is exciting. This block is SSK, which stands for slip, slip, knit. And it is a slip, slip, knit is or SSK, which is often referred to, is a decrease. It is a way to take two stitches and put them together. I'm going to share my screen here. There are lots of ways to decrease. SSK happens to be a left-leaning decrease. We will get to, oh, look at that, I did that stitch wrong. A knit two together, which is a right-leaning decrease. And we will get to that. But I think you can see here, it is very clearly leaning to the left. All right, so this block starts like all the rest of our blocks with the border, and then you do an increase row because we need, I believe, a total of 51 stitches, 43 body stitches, plus our 8 stitches for the border. So I do have, let me zoom out, I do have my border stitches marked out. Just now. And I do have a marker for my right side. The right side and the wrong side are close in appearance. But the right side, in between these panels of decreases, has these purl stitches, which are consistent all the way across. You start, like several of our patterns, you start with row 2. So you aren't going to do the first row of decreasing. You're going to go right to row 2 because you've done an increasing row and your row 2 is a wrong side, purling back across, and then you're ready to start your decreasing. So I was showing somebody today, as you're working through this, and we'll look at the pattern here in a second, a way to keep track of which row you're on. So it's a 6-row repeat. Right side rows are odd. So 1, 3, and 5 are your right side rows. And those are the rows where you're going to be doing your decreasing, your SSK. Whoops, let me zoom in just a little here. And I'm going to show you a little bit. Put my pattern over here too. This is a pattern where, because there are very obvious repeats in the row, it's an 8-stitch repeat plus these 3 rows of purling on this side, knitting on the other. In between, you could put markers if you felt like you needed to keep track of your repeat section. So you could put, it starts with a purl 3, but then you could put a set of markers here so to keep it straight. I found I didn't need to. My purls all lined up. If you're working across your repeat row and it comes your decrease row and it comes time to do your purl 3 and you don't see purls already, you know you've gone wrong in that section and you need to take it back. All right, so I am ready to, I've done this now 3 times. You're going to do these 6 rows a total of 10 times. And I'm ready to start row 1 again. And my family is texting me because they never remember I do Instagram or class on Monday nights. So I'm going to start with my border stitches. Knit. Remember, on the right side, you always start with a knit and your seed stitch. Another way to tell if you're on the right side or the wrong side. Okay. Set my marker. And then row 1 has us starting with a purl 3. And I've got those purl stitches right there. So I'm going to purl these 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. All right. And then I'm going to start, not only does it have a decrease, but we have a yarn over because we don't want to change the number of stitches in our row. So if you're going to take a stitch away, you need to add a stitch in. And the most common way to do that is by doing a yarn over. So each decrease, or SSK in this particular pattern, is paired with a yarn over. So if you do one SSK, you're going to have one yarn over to go with it. This row happens to have 2 SSK stitches, so you'll have 2 yarn overs in it. So it starts with a yarn over, the repeat, but I'm on the my yarn is from a purl. So the easiest way to do the next part is just to bring it over, and then you're ready. I've created the yarn over the needle, and I'm ready to do the SSK. If you're in a hurry, or if you get comfortable with it, I tend not to bring my yarn over the needle until I'm ready to wrap it over the stitches. I just leave it hanging out in front. And here's how you do the SSK. Zoom in just a little. It does make a difference. It stands for slip, slip, knit them together. Okay, is what it stands for. So I'm going to, you don't want to slip them together. You want to slip them independently, and you want to slip them as if they were knit stitches. Don't slip them knit purlwise, slip them as if they were knit stitches. The reason for that is it puts a little bit of a twist on the yarn and makes it a little tighter stitch and less holdy. So I've slipped 1, I've slipped 2. Now I'm ready to knit these 2 stitches I slipped together. I'm going to take my left needle, I'm going to insert it into the front of those 2 stitches, and I'm ready to knit. Now I can take my yarn over the needle and wrap. And I've created my yarn over and my knitting at the same time. And take it off. So there's my yarn over. It's always going to look like a slant with a little hole underneath. And then, let me zoom in a little so you can see. So here I've got the back side, you can see the 2 stitches with the 1 stitch coming out from underneath it. So if you're trying to identify which one is your SSK, it has a little bit of a slant on it, although that slant is going to go away. The stitch itself is not going to look quite so slanted once it gets purled. It gets pulled back a little, but you do get an overall left-leaning slant to it. Okay, so that was the first one. Yarn over SSK, the knit one. Now I'm going to SSK again. My yarn is in the back, and I need to yarn over. So I'm going to bring it, because I finished with the knit stitch, bring it between the needles and then over. And then I slip, slip, and slide that in, knit them together. And then I finish with a purl 3, and I have those 3 purl stitches. So I know I've used the right number of stitches. So let me do that, and I'll do that section one more time. So you do have the going from a purl stitch to a yarn over SSK, and going from a knit stitch to a yarn over SSK. So holding your yarn is a little bit different. So here my yarn is in front again. I'm just going to leave it there. Or if you're more comfortable, just bring it over. Don't bring it between the needles because you've not created that yarn over that you need. It needs to come over the needle. I'm going to slip, oops, slip, slide that in there. And now in the bringing the yarn around to wrap, I've created my yarn over. And off, and knit 1. Now I need to yarn over again. I need to bring it between the needles, and now it's coming over the needle for me too. Slip, slip, knit them together. And I'm ready to purl 3. So you'll do that all the way across. that is the only row where you have two slip knits. The other two decreasing rows, which are rows 3 and 5, only have one SSK. So what you end up doing in your repeat, I'm going to zoom out just a little so you can see the overall. If you were going along, and I'll show you the backside row is the same for each one. You're always going to be purling these 5 stitches and then knitting the 3 stitches in between. So that's not going to change. So all of these stitches here will get purled on the wrong side. The purled stitches get knitted on the wrong side. If you weren't sure which row you were on, the whole 6-stage repeat has, you end up with a total of, let's see, I'll show you this one because I made it a little clearer here. You should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 yarn over holes. You won't have that in the first section. You only have 1, 2, 3 because you don't start with row 1, you start with row 2. So row 1 is where you get this hole and you get the first and the last. Those all happen in the same row, if that makes sense. So after here, you'll always have 1, 2, 3, 4. So here in my going forward section, I've only got 3 holes, so I know I'm ready to do the one that has 2 holes in it. So that was one way to help keep myself on track on where I was in the pattern. Okay, let's see. Those are, I think, the only little tips I had. It really is a pretty easy stitch. It's good practice on that left leaning decrease, and I can see there's a couple places where, like, that one really stands out to me. I must have been a little loose on my tension, but it should be mostly a seamless looking angling of your stitches and a great way to decrease. Often you will see an SSK if you're using it going forward. An SSK and a knit 2 together, since this is left leaning and knit 2 together is right leaning, you will often see these coming together if you're decreasing on, let's say, the sleeve of a sweater. So the decreases will angle together, or they can angle apart depending on the style. I've seen it that way too, where it goes both directions. And as long as they line up, you're good to go. Laura, did you have any questions on this one?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, good. All right, so that's all I had to share with this one. If you're watching this later and you've got questions, don't ever hesitate to call the shop and we'll work you through it. It is this one is a pretty simple one. And it should go by pretty quick. So enjoy. And we've ip 2 more blocks to go. And if you're doing the blanket version, we'll have a special session on how to block them and join them together. If you're doing them as washcloths, you can block them also if you want to, but you don't have to. They look a little nicer when you give them as gifts if they're steamed out a little bit. So we'll have a special little video on how to block these and put them together as a blanket. Otherwise, I will see you all next month.